afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good afternoon. Joel Bitonio, Browns offensive lineman, was on 92.3 The Fan this morning talking about Browns finding an offensive identity.
Well, no, being here at the offseason program, we actually went over what the offense identity, what the defensive identity, and what the special teams identity was yesterday in our team meeting, which it's easy to put on paper, but we're trying to develop that as a group and an offense. Like I said, we want to be multiple. We want to, marriage of the run and pass. We want to be physical. We want to play fast, not necessarily like up tempo all the time, but break the huddle, get to the line, fast motions, all these things that an efficient offense does, and just not hurt ourselves. I mean, it stings because we've been very bad at it, but Kevin has always stressed, don't turn the ball over. Take the ball away on defense, don't turn the ball away on offense. And I think we want to do that this year. Like, we think we have the defensive players to play great defense. And if we can control the ball on offense and take advantage of those big plays when we have them, we think we can get back some of that magic, from 2023.
Yeah, the last 2 years, Browns were among the worst teams in the NFL in turnover margin. Joe Thomas, Hall of Fame offensive lineman for the Browns, on why he likes Joe Flacco as the starting quarterback.
He's playing in Kevin Stefanski's system for I don't know how many years now in his career, so he knows what he's supposed to be getting done, reading the ball down the field, reading the coverage, getting the ball out on time. He understands where he's supposed to be in the pocket. He's not going to have any communication issues on the line of scrimmage when they're re-IDing protections or the run game. And so it puts your mind at ease as an offensive lineman to be able to have a veteran back there that's just getting everything organized, right? You need that coach on the field because they're in charge of so much communication and decision-making from the time that the huddle is broke until the time is snapped. And you really want that guy who can be that calm, who can be that communicator, who can be that field general at quarterback. Otherwise, it puts a lot more on your plate. And a lot of times the coaches don't want to put a lot of that on the offensive line's plate because they want the quarterback to do it, because it's a lot harder for the O-line to communicate to the quarterback, to communicate to the running back, and then communicate to the pass catchers. It's a lot easier when the quarterback just communicates to everybody at once. And so for the most part, the quarterback's got to be that guy that dictates exactly what's going to happen up front. And I think with Joe Flacco, he gives you the best chance to win from day one, especially considering the offense that the Browns are going to be probably employing a little bit this year, which is that old school Kevin Stefanski under center, play action, outside zone, pin pull type run game. And I think that fits with a veteran quarterback like Joe Flacco.
We'll see. The training camp will answer those questions, we hope. CBS Sports Insider Jonathan Jones with his thoughts on the Browns as they sort through their quarterback competition.
I highly doubt that the Browns are going to have 4 quarterbacks on their roster, their 53-man roster, once week 1 gets here. I don't think they're going to cut Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders or risk them potentially being poached off the practice squad. And so that means what happens with a Kenny Pickett or a Joe Flacco? One of them may get traded, maybe a quarterback-needy team out there who would use a veteran. So we'll see how things wind up shaking out. It'll be up to these guys and how they perform on the field this summer to see who stays in Cleveland.
And it will be interesting. The other thing is the noise was that people didn't want Shedeur Sanders as a backup quarterback because of the attention he would gather and that Dillon Gabriel was drafted too high. Well, if both of those are true, why don't you think they'd make it to the practice squad? I don't understand that line of thinking. It's time will tell, without question. Guardians and Twins tried to get a 3-game series underway in Minneapolis yesterday, and they got a couple innings in. In the first inning, Kyle Manzardo hits one and kind of one-hops that wall out. There it goes as an RBI double, an early 1-0 Guardians lead. But bottom of the first, Twins come right back. Ty France up the middle and out into center field. That brings a run in to make it 1-1. Second inning, Twins at it again, and it's Willie Castro. That one's going to be problems in the gap all the way to the wall. An RBI double to make it 2-1 Twins. And then the rains came, and the rains came, and the rains came, and they didn't leave. It will be, the game was suspended in the 4th inning. They will resume that tonight at 6:10 with Twins winning 2-1. Then they will have the regularly scheduled game after it. Guardians with an important stretch of games here, as it's 3 against Twins, 4 against Tigers, 2 of the 3 teams that they're chasing in the AL Central. Some concerning news for the Guardians. Travis Bazzana, an oblique strain, and will miss the next 8 to 10 weeks. Then they'll have to build him back out. But Travis Bazzana, number 1 overall pick, was doing so well at AA this year, injured and will be sidelined 2 months plus. So it'll be interesting to see how they come back from that. ESPN's national NBA analyst, Brian Windhorst, his thoughts on the Cavs rosters and any potential changes they might make.
The Cavs knew when they did the DeAndre Hunter trade specifically that they were committing themselves to this roster. It doesn't mean that they can't change it, but they were committing themselves to the roster. You know, Kobe Altman has made it clear he believes in this roster and he has dedicated himself to keeping it together. So while I don't know what he would say, I would be surprised if he came off of it. I think this team has been put together very strongly. It just it hasn't come together in the playoffs the last 2 years. I think they'll continue to look at opportunities, but I can't sit here and tell you that they're going to do A, B, or C, because once you become a second apron team, it makes it a lot harder.
And again, Cavs will try to figure out a way to improve any way they can. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Browns are up first. Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, on the other side of the break. Stay with us on Sports4CLE. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We begin by talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Fox Sports NFL analyst Jeff Schwartz, his thoughts about the Browns quarterback competition.
I feel like there's sort of 2 separate job applications, jobs happening, right? There's like the Flacco, Kenny Pickett, who's going to start. Like that's one competition, right? And the loser of that most likely is released, okay? And then there's sort of like the Gabriel Sanders, who's the primary backup. I don't think that at Gabriel Sanders camp, unless they are so good early in training camp, are going to overtake sort of the Pickett Flacco who's going to start competition, right? Because look, those guys have experience, and I mentioned this when the draft happened. There's 4 quarterbacks that need reps. You have single practices now. You don't have 2-a-days, and now even practices you get every 4th day off, and you have a load management day. Like there's just not enough reps calling unless Shadur is that good early on. He's that much better than Flacco, which he probably won't be in practice, right? Flacco's done this a long time now. So you basically would have to give him the job saying, hey, man, we just see so much in practice. There's not a lot to see in games yet. We'll give him jobs. I think early on it's probably Flacco, Pickett, whoever wins that job. And then the primary backup will just be the winner of the Sanders Gabriel. I think, look, Gabriel, I'm with you. I think he's a career backup. But he's going to look good in practice. Like you're going to have to basically lose that job in the preseason, and I think he will. I think Sanders will play better than him. So I think that right now, I think Flacco starts probably the year as a quarterback. At some point, though, Sanders overtakes him.
Well, now let's welcome in Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, Mary Kay Cabot. Mary Kay, you wrote an article about this. They plan to conduct a fair competition. Take us through what that might look like.
Well, basically, what's going to happen early on in these OTAs, which we will be out there next week to see what's going on out there, and then probably through mandatory minicamp, they're going to be conducting basically 2 different sets of passing drills so that they can get as many reps in for these guys as they possibly can. That's why you saw them continuing to add receivers to the football team. You saw them adding 3 tryout receivers after rookie minicamp for now about a total of 12 receivers. So they can split those guys up about 6 and 6 and let these quarterbacks get tons of reps.
Would you expect them to get reps with all of the receivers? So in other words, all 4 will get reps with the ones, all 4 will get reps with the guys that are at the bottom of the 12 wide receiver depth chart, if you will.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you have to make it a level playing field. There's no way you can conduct a fair quarterback competition if you're not giving Shador a chance to throw to Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku, and and Joe Flacco has to be able to throw to the tryout guys. So in order to make it fair, they will mix it up. They will throw to all different guys. Now, having said that, with the way this schedule starts out and with as tough as it is in the early going of the 2025 season, they cannot wait too long to pick a quarterback. They have to get up and running as soon as possible. They've got to get their chemistry down, their camaraderie down, and they can't dilly-dally on this thing.
Is there, I know you and I have talked about this, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, they're pretty level, aren't they? I don't think anyone starts with, a 2-step head start, if you will.
Well, actually, I do think Kenny Pickett has a little bit of a head start by virtue of the fact that they went out and pursued him right at the start of the league year, and they took their time with Joe Flacco. In fact, Joe Flacco didn't even know 2 weeks beforehand that this was going to be possible, that he was going to end up with the Cleveland Browns. He was actually kind of surprised when it came down. So they were not apparently hot and heavy after him this whole entire time. They had been looking at Russell Wilson and some other options. And so I would have to put Kenny ahead on the sort of imaginary depth chart or in the pecking order right now. So I'm going Kenny, and I've said this several times, Kenny, Dillon, and then you bring in Flacco and Shador to take those 3rd and 4th team reps when they get into team, and they'll split them up and jumble those up to a degree. But I mean, if you really had to put a pecking order to it right now, that's where I would go.
And again, the thought was those are the 2 guys that they actually went out and got when the others were available.
Yes, absolutely. Even in the draft, when you look at Dillon Gabriel, they were very intent on landing him in that 3rd round. And they passed on Shador Sanders 6 different times. They were prepared to leave the draft without Shador. They were not prepared to leave the draft without Dillon Gabriel. They did not want that to happen. So they saw to it that they ended up with him. And then, of course, they came back and grabbed Shador in the 5th round. So he's got to climb back up. And I'm sure he will. I mean, he's really a really good football player. He had a nice rookie camp, and I know that there is a segment of the Shador Sanders fan base out there that gets very upset about any suggestion that he might not be the starting quarterback right from the start. But it's going to be a little bit of an uphill climb.
So I know, hey, Mary Kay, that you answered this. Who do you think is going to win the quarterback spot for the Browns, at least initially?
Initially, I'm still going with Kenny Pickett right now because I think they need some experience at the position. This is the way that it's going to start. Will it end up this way? We don't know. So many things can happen. There can be injuries. Guys can pull ahead. One of the things that I've been talking about is the fact that if you can make Jerry Jeudy look good, if you can make David Njoku look good, if you can make Cedric Tillman look good, then that will go a long way towards winning this starting job. But in the early going, I think the Browns really have their heart set on Kenny Pickett going out there and at least starting the first part of the season to show what he can do. I don't know if it'll go that way for sure, but I think that when you start out in OTAs, we're going to see him taking some of those first team reps.
The other thing that we saw yesterday, Deshaun Watson posted on Instagram, he was thrown to Jerry Jeudy, David Bell, wasn't in a walking boot. I know he wrote an article about it. Is there a chance that he's able to go at some point in time?
Well, that's what he is gunning for. That is what he is aiming for and trying to do. And I think that he's pretty confident that he's going to be able to play at some point this season. Whether or not the Browns will permit him to do that, or maybe even activate him at any point in the season, that remains to be seen. But he is certainly not giving up on himself this season. And the Browns are not slamming the door shut on it, interestingly enough. Every time we've asked Andrew Berry about it, he keeps on saying that it's too early to say. There's no timeline. We know he will miss significant time, but we don't know exactly what that means. So we'll have to see how it all goes. But as of right now, he's working to get back, and nobody is completely ruling him out.
So I'm going to combine a couple of your Hey Mary Kays. Do you think the Saints pursue one of the Browns quarterbacks with Derek Carr retiring? Now, Kellen Moore, their new head coach, coached Kenny Pickett with the Eagles last year. And do you think one of the Browns quarterbacks gets traded? What could they get for one of them?
Well, I do think there is a chance that some teams will come calling on some of the Browns quarterbacks at some point. Maybe not this early, but as they move along through the preseason, it becomes a little bit more obvious who might shake out of there. Maybe some teams will call. But as of right now, the Browns have no plans on trading any of these quarterbacks. They want to conduct this four-way competition. They want these guys to bring out the best in each other, and they want to arrive at some kind of a conclusion at some point during training camp who is going to start for this football team. Once they get to that point, and then they also find out who their backup is, you're going to have a little bit of a surplus. And so when that happens, maybe towards roster cut down day on August 27th, somebody is going to be available. Maybe even two guys will be available, but at least one player should be available in a trade, and that's when I think teams will maybe come calling for a Joe Flacco, or maybe the Browns hang on to him for a week or two into the season and see if a team needs a starter. So yes, they could go into the season with 4 quarterbacks on the roster, but they won't keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster for very long.
So rookie minicamp, again, there wasn't a lot going on, but you mentioned the very vocal segment that supports Shedeur Sanders as the starting quarterback. Did he outperform Dillon Gabriel, or is it kind of, if you liked Shedeur Sanders going in, he did really well. If you liked Dillon Gabriel going in, he did really well.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder when it comes to quarterbacks. That's just the way that it is. You have so many teams that are going to like one guy, so many teams that are going to like another guy. And then when it comes to, people watching training camp or rookie camp, you're going to have people that don't like a shorter quarterback, like a Dillon Gabriel. They would more prefer Shedeur, even though he's not a whole lot bigger. He's at least a couple of inches taller than Dillon Gabriel is. So I think it just is a matter of preference, and you sort of go into it with a little bit of a bias and some preconceived notions, and you're going to see what fits your mental paradigm. And what I saw when I looked out there were 2 quarterbacks that operated efficiently. They both did a really, really nice job. The ball came out well, good spin, good revolution, fluid on their footwork. The moment wasn't too big for them. They both played a lot of football. They've been coached well. And I thought they were kind of equal. I thought one did some things better than the other. For instance, I thought Dillon was very organized and handled the pre-snap stuff better. And then I thought Shedeur made a few more dazzling deep completions. So there were things to like about both of these guys. I cannot call one a clear-cut winner. I don't know. I mean, I had guys out there saying, oh, Shedeur was absolutely the winner. I had other people saying, oh, Dillon was absolutely the winner. Well, the answer has to probably be somewhere in the middle.
I'm curious your answer to this one from a Hey Mary Kay. Would Dillon Gabriel have been a first rounder if he was 2 inches bigger?
I don't think he would have been a first rounder if he had been 2 inches taller, but I think he probably could have been a second rounder. As we saw, only 2 quarterbacks this year went in the first round. Now, I suppose there is a chance he could have been, but it's probably more likely he would have ended up somewhere in the second round if he had a little bit of height on him. And we'll have to see how this all plays out. You never really know. There are quarterbacks in classes that come from behind and surprise everyone, like a Brock Purdy did in his year. And, Lamar Jackson, 32nd pick in his year, ahead of all those other guys in that class. And, we don't even know yet how the 2024 class is going to shake out when all is said and done. So you don't know how this is going to go, but I would think that a second-round pick would have been about right for Dillon.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE will be right back.
At the Ohio Lottery, we make Keno fun your way. So go on, pick your wager. Will it be $1, $2, $10, or more? Your call. Then it's as easy as picking up to 10 numbers. Use any inspiration you like. You can even tag on the booster for a chance to boost your winnings up to 10 times. Every few minutes across Ohio, 20 out of 80 possible numbers are drawn. And if enough of yours match, you win. Keno is always fun your way.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey guys, the 2025 draft class has at least a couple things in common by all indications. They all appear to have pretty clean injury histories, and they all look to have stellar backgrounds. Really good safe picks. With our recent injury bug, man, would it help to be able to count on these guys playing on a regular basis going forward. How important do you think AB used this as part of his calculus on our draft board? Great job, AB. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Mary Kate, what do you, the other thing, a lot of production. You had 4 guys that were their conference player of the year or offensive player of the year.
Definitely a lot of production, a lot of accolades for these guys, a lot of football. We know that both Shedeur and Dylan played a ton of football. We know that most of them played at a very, very high level, Big Ten, SEC, and then when you get to a Harold Fannin, tons and tons of production there for a tight end at the college level. So they come in with very impressive credentials. And I'll tell you what, I was impressed by pretty much all of those rookies at rookie camp. And I can't honestly say that I have always felt that way about the entire rookie class, but I felt that way about this one. Now, one thing I did write over the weekend was that Mason Graham is going to need to work on his body composition a little bit. But for the most part, these guys are accomplished, and the moment was not too big for them.
Yeah, take us through that. That was kind of one of the things we wanted to get into. It's not uncommon for defensive tackles that are elevating to the NFL.
Right. So, he lost some weight. He was, I think by the time he got to the combine, he was about 310, whatever the case may be. He lost some weight, or maybe it was 296 at the combine. Now he's back up to 310. But he lost some weight there for a while in that postseason process. And he's getting that back. But now what the Browns really want him to do and gave him marching orders to do is to work on that body comp and to make sure that his probably his body fat is a little bit down and his muscle count is up. So I think they want him to get bigger, stronger, faster. In fact, he said that. He confirmed and acknowledged that that's the case. So that's what he is going to do. But it didn't really hurt him much in terms of the way he moves. And at camp, he looked explosive in drills and also attacking the sleds and stuff like that. We did see him, of course, unfortunately, vomit during that practice, but that is not any kind of a deal breaker about anything. That is not something anybody is concerned about. It's just one of those rookie things that sometimes happen probably to the big guys more than anybody, and not something the Browns are concerned about.
So what were your biggest positives from the rookie mini camp that went on? What were the biggest takeaways that were positives?
Well, aside from the quarterbacks, who I thought were both very positive, the running backs look like they are poised to come in here and take over and transform this running game, and that's exactly what the Browns need them to do. They need an infusion of speed, explosiveness, receiving ability out of the backfield, power, and that's what they hope to get from these two guys. I thought they both looked really, really good in camp. And I think that Browns fans are going to fall in love with these two rookie running backs who are going to kind of develop their careers together and really be something for this football team over the next how many every year. So I thought that was good. Carson Schwessinger, really, really nice player. He just looks like he knows where to be. He has a very high football acumen. That allowed him to pick off Dylan Gabriel in the red zone, in the end zone, actually, in a red zone drill and run that back. So he looks like a keeper. And again, Harold Fannin, every single time I looked up, Harold Fannin was catching another football. So I think he's going to give David Njoku a really nice compliment. And I just think that you're going to see a lot of starters out of this class.
Curious, again, you wrote this on your Browns Insider. Dwan Jones, Michael Hall injury recovery status. Where are they at, and are they on track? Is anybody behind?
Well, Dwan Jones, who underwent surgery for a broken fibula, is back out on the field already in OTAs. So that's good. And I've heard that his weight is good and that he looks good. So eager to see what that's all about, because, of course, he is penciled in to start at left tackle for the Cleveland Browns this year. He's going to have some competition. They signed a free agent in Cornelius Lucas, but Dwan Jones is going to go out there and try to nail down that job. He had a 3-game tryout at it last year, did a really nice job there. As far as Mike Hall is concerned, the Browns are very eager for him to come back from a knee surgery. They also signed Malik Collins as a defensive tackle, a free agent, a veteran who has a lot of experience in there too. And of course, they've got Mason Graham now. So they've got some talent at the position, but they want their 2nd-round pick in there from last year, and they're eager to get him back. He's not practicing right now, but by training camp, he should be ready to go.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take one more time out, other side of the break. Back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll talk a little bit about the running game. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with it.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave, one thing about Nick Chubb. The Browns need to re-sign him to look like a class act organization. If not, what are other players going to think? He deserves to get some kind of chance, I think. I don't know. Give me your thoughts, brother. All right, I love you. You and the family be safe and be good, and God bless.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, we get a lot of, and I'm sure you get more than we do, talk about Nick Chubb. I don't think Nick Chubb wants to be signed unless you're going to give him the chance to run the ball 8, 10, 12 times a game at a minimum.
Well, what Nick Chubb needs is a good opportunity. He needs somebody that's going to believe in him, somebody that's going to understand exactly what he's been through and what he is seeking to do. So I really think that there might be more of an opportunity for him to do that once you get into the season and a running back goes down. That's where Kareem Hunt has come up with his best opportunities over the last 3 or 4 years. So something like that probably is going to need to happen for Nick Chubb unless he wants to take a very backup role. I think if I were him, I would probably wait and see if you can't be a little choosy a little bit into the season, 1 week in, 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, when somebody needs a workhorse back.
So Joel Bitonio was on 92.3 The Fan today talking about getting back the run game in this offense.
Yeah, I think yes, O-line, what they're most excited for, it's that. You look up cut-ups in the offseason of like the plays you're installing. It's such a refresh, you look at like, oh, this is, our outside zone left and all this stuff. And in a lot of the plays, they flash back, 2020, 2021, 2022, like 2023. There's plays from, the last 4 years that we've been doing this. And it's like, all right, this is what we, not really signed up for. But as an O-lineman, this is what we signed up for. We're, going to run outside zone. We're going to run the ball, cut guys on the backside, big play actions off these runs where the defense is tired. Like, that's what an O-line dreams of. And I came into this league, with Coach Shanahan running that offense. And so for me, it just feels like that feels right. That feels what, offensive football is. And so, especially linemen, man, I know it's a passing league. I know teams like to pass, but I loved it this year that a lot of the teams that were in the playoffs that were making these runs were really running the ball. Like even the Chiefs, the Bills, like the Bills in the playoffs had a drive with, 12, 13 runs in a row. Like teams that were putting these smaller guys on the field to defend the pass, teams like, oh, we got to run the ball at these guys to make them tackle and see what they can do.
Mary Kay, you heard that from a number of linemen at the exit interviews last year. And Joel Batone, the line can't wait to get out and do that.
Yeah, and they're good at it, and they're going to have a couple of really, really good running backs. And of course, Jerome Ford is coming back as well. So when you get Quinshon Judkins out there and Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford, you're going to have, I think, one heck of a running game. And I can't wait to see what these guys are going to do. Everybody's seen Quinshon Judkins, even in the weight room, squatting 600 pounds. He is just built. You want to talk about a Nick Chubb-like guy. I mean, this is a workout warrior. He is built like a Mack truck, basically. So he's going to bring that power, that explosiveness, and then you've got your home run hitter. And I think the offensive linemen are going to be very, very excited about this because, that's what they love to do. They're going to get back to run blocking. That's what they're excellent at. And I think it's just going to help the whole entire football team, especially your new starting quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. If you can get a run game that's a quarterback's best friend. So you mentioned next Tuesday, Wednesday is the next time be able to go out to OTAs. What are you paying attention? What are you going to be looking at and paying close attention to out in Berea during that time?
Well, unfortunately, we get to watch so few of these OTAs. I think we get to watch actually maybe 2 practices total, maybe 3 out of the 10 until we get into minicamp, and then we'll be able to watch the entire mandatory minicamp. But we only have a couple of practices, so of course I have to focus on the quarterback competition. I would love to be able to watch everything, but I just can't. It would be nice if maybe they'd have some film sessions and let us watch some of the other stuff too. Maybe I'll bring that up. But definitely I have to be watching the quarterbacks because that's what this offseason is going to be all about. That's what the spring is going to be about. That's what minicamp is going to be about. And that's largely what training camp is going to be all about.
So I know you got this in a Hey Mary Kay. Do you think Kevin Stefanski would run a 2-quarterback system this year with Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel? We've gotten a couple of those as well.
No, I don't think so. The only way that I think they would have maybe done something like that is if you ended up with an absolute running dual threat quarterback that could come in there and do some Taysom Hill type stuff for you or some wildcatty type stuff. So I don't see that happening because that is not what they have. Now, if they had drafted a Jalen Milroe, then I would have been all about that package for Jalen Milroe and asking about it from the jump. But that is not the case here. These guys are not vastly different enough to platoon them in any way, and I don't see it happening.
So we've talked a little compliment David Njoku.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Harold Fannin looks pretty darn good. Big, great hands. I mean, he's really another receiver out there. A big, tall, rangy receiver is what he is. And I'm sure he'll have to come around a little bit in the blocking realm, but David did that. And I think he's also going to push David, which is good because David had a down year last year in large part because of injuries, but still he just didn't have the kind of year that he would have loved to have had. So I think this will kind of motivate him a little bit. I was going to say light a fire under him a little bit, but that was going to be a poor choice of words. Let's forget about that one. I think it might motivate him a little bit to become even better than he has been. So that's good. I think competition brings out the best in everyone.
Can you see Andrew Berry adding to this roster? And I guess I'm getting at wide receiver. Do you think they try to find a way to go get another wide receiver?
Well, I think they should. Because there's just no guarantee that Deontay Johnson is going to be able to do what they need him to do, even though it's his last sort of chance to salvage his career here. I don't know if they can 100% count on him to kind of keep his head on straight and to buy into the program enough to to become what they need him to be or want him to be, which would be that Pro Bowl caliber receiver that he was in, I think it was 2021. But certainly he's got the talent, he's got the ability, but he has been somewhat of a troubled soul just in terms of being upset about things and not being able to keep his mind calm and settled. And if he can do that here, then they could really be onto something. But I think they have to hedge their bets a little bit. And if it were me, I would be out there looking for another almost Pro Bowl caliber receiver like that on someone else's roster, probably.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you check her out. Great Browns coverage in the pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
At the Ohio Lottery, we make Keno fun your way. So go on, pick your wager. Will it be $1, $2, $10, or more? Your call. Then it's as easy as picking up to 10 numbers. Use any inspiration you like. You can even tag on the booster for a chance to boost your winnings up to 10 times. Every few minutes across Ohio, 20 out of 80 possible numbers are drawn. And if enough of yours match, you win. Keno is always fun your way.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE during rookie mini camp. Running back coach Deuce Staley was mic'd up by the Browns. Let's listen in.
Here we go, RBs. Go. There you go. There you go. Eyes up, eyes up. Good. Burst. There you go. There you go, Q. Pick him up, pick him up. There you go. There you go. Nice. That's a good one. There you go. Right there's where you need to be. You're going to make all your moves from right here. Back slow. Ready. Power. Explosion. Control. So remember, when I clap my hands, you're going to move your feet. I'm going to direct you, and all you're doing is moving. Never cross it over. Now, in your mind, I want you to think about blitzers and how you shoot your hands. So the weight of the bag is the blitzer. All right, boom, you put your hands on them. You keep it tight. You can grab all the cloth you can inside. Outside, you can't. That's holding. So now, you're just moving your feet. If you cross over, you're done. Makes sense? Pick the bag up. Pick the bag up in front of your chest. Keep it in front of your chest the whole time. I want it right here. There you go. Because that's how you're going to block. You ain't going to block down here. This is what it's about right here. Getting that fucking work in. So when you get in that fucking stadium, it's easy. This is what it's about. Burst. Good, good. There it is, right there. There it is. Finish. Finish. Boom. There it is. I see it. There you go. There it is. That's it. That's it. Hey, it's going to be like that sometimes. We turn cracks to holes, right? It's going to be like that sometimes. Good. Run. There it is. Good cut, boy. That's it.
So welcome in Chris Easterling, Browns beat reporter for the Akron Beacon-Journal. Chris, I play that to set up a couple stories you wrote. Dynamic duo, Judkins, Sampson. Take us through that article and kind of your thoughts. I know it's only rookie mini camp, but what we saw in rookie mini camp.
They look the part, if nothing else physically, but, I think the ultimate hope is that you get this new version. They become the new version of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, is that you get two guys who both have some physicality. Quinshawn's obviously the much more physical back, whereas Dylan Sampson's the guy whose speed probably is his primary trait. And I think the hope is that, these guys can develop as they get more and more comfortable into sort of the centerpiece of this offense. If we think about Kevin Stefanski's offense, if we think about even what Tommy Rees has run over the years in Notre Dame and Alabama, running the football is a critical piece. And I think if these two guys are sort of the guys they're banking on to be able to kind of, thunder and lightning or whatever terminology you want to use, that, they can become the, kind of the focal point of this offense.
You also talked to Tennessee's running back coach about Sampson and how he'd fit in with the Browns. Take us through that article and what you found, what his thoughts were with the fit.
Well, he loved it. He, one of his in a previous stop at East Carolina, he coached Keaton Mitchell, who's now with the Baltimore Ravens, and so he said, he's familiar with he's familiar with the AFC North. He's familiar with what it takes to be a good running back in the AFC North, and he loves the matchup. He loves the way Dylan Sampson fits. Obviously, he coached him. He's partial to him, but he said he's that perfect changeup to go with Quinshawn because who's somebody he also recruited while he was while he was at Louisville as an assistant coach. So he goes, they're that perfect running back for the AFC North, the perfect combination of, you can kind of pound on a defense with Quinshawn, and then you kind of throw that changeup, which is Dylan Sampson he's got the speed. He can kind of get the burst if you're looking for the big play. And also on the flip, then he believes that Quinshawn Judkins is a perfect guy, and we saw it while he was at Ohio State. And if you watched him at Ole Miss, you saw the same thing. That he's capable of wearing teams down in the fourth quarter and sort of breaking them. So I think everybody you talk to, they just love this combination because there's enough similarities and enough differences that it sort of forms the perfect kind of backfield combination.
So you also wrote kind of a thing with the two rookie quarterbacks, Gabriel Sanders, and kind of their mindset, and as they enter this quarterback derby, quarterback battle. Take us through that article and kind of what the texture of that was.
Well, I think both of their approaches, I think it's exactly what you need when you come into a situation like this, is that they're not focused on the outside noise. They're not even focused necessarily on the other one. They're focused on their own selves. And what, I think it was Shedeur who says, I'm focused on me. It's me versus me, because, and that's, I think, the right attitude to take because, you can't worry about, Dylan Gabriel can't worry about what Shedeur Sanders is doing or vice versa. They just have to work on themselves, learning the playbook, learning their teammates, learning everything about this organization and about playing quarterback in the NFL. That if you compound it by worrying about what the other guy is doing, looking over at what the other guy is doing, you're setting yourself up for failure. So I think both of them are really coming in with the right attitude, the right mindset. Now it's about going out and doing it on the field. And 3 days of rookie mini camp, it's hard to to declare a winner off of those 3 days it would be a fool's errand. But but it's the step, it's the baseline, it's the first step of the journey where now they come into the OTAs and the offseason program, and every day they're in it, it's just it's like a sponge, just absorb, and see how much you can absorb, so that when you are actually asked to get out there on the field and perform, you can do what you can show that you have a competence in that, so that then from then you can judge the physical parts of it, arm strength, throwing, all of that other stuff.
So schedule was released. It's a brutal beginning to it, and it's a pretty tough schedule without question. Win totals for the Browns set by the sports books, 4.5, 5.5. Do you think that's a little low?
I think it's about right. I mean, you're coming off a 3-win season. You have, I think the quarterback I think the quarterback questions obviously, loom large over it. The offensive questions in general loom large over it. I mean, if you get healthy you get a healthy offensive line this year, that offensive line could be pretty good because of Joel and Wyatt and Jack, specifically DeLon. There's talent there, but if you continue to get the offensive line injuries, there's just so many questions. Even on defense, yeah, you have Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, but you just have JOK is not going to play. So I understand it, and then you throw in the opponents, the NFC North and the AFC North. That accounts for let's see, 6. That accounts for 10. That's 10 opponents on that schedule. That's those are arguably the two best divisions in football, and then you throw the Bills in, in games like that, it's just that's a tough schedule, and with all the questions, I think 4.5 is fair.
That's fair. What about so last year was a disappointment without question, but when you look at this defense, I can see it being top 10, top 5. That 2 years ago they were really good, and I would argue last year they kind of got hurt by really, really bad quarterback play. They were on the field too much.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, let's think back to last October, and they hold the Eagles to what, 20 points, something like that, 21.
Yeah.
I can't remember the. I mean, they should have, if they get any sort of competent quarterback play, competent offensive play that game, they probably win it because of the way the defense performed against the Eagles. And that's the team that went on to win the Super Bowl. So, the Bengals the following week, it wasn't the defense. It wasn't like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase lit them up. The defense played well. But the problem is there's just so many questions right now with this defense. Who becomes can Mason Graham step in immediately as a rookie and line up next to Myles Garrett and provide some help, provide some push, in the middle of that that defensive line? What are they going to do at safety beyond Grant Delpit? I mean, I know they've signed a couple of veterans, and they have Ronnie Hickman, but there's still a lot of questions outside of in the secondary, outside of Denzel Ward. You have Denzel, who's coming off, I thought, his best year all around as a corner in the NFL. But Martin Emerson and Greg both, I would argue, said didn't have nearly the years that some people expected either of them to have. So there's just so many questions at each level that it's understandable if you just sort of you're sort of a doubting Thomas coming into the season about that. That said, there's absolutely talent and potential on there. With even with amongst the rookies, Carson Schweisinger, everything you hear, if he's what as advertised, that's a heck of a football player you have there. So, I think I absolutely think there's reason to believe in the defense, but I understand the reason to sort of hold back on going all in on that defense, in mid to late May.
Chris Easterling, Browns beat reporter for the Akron Beacon-Journal. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Chris Easterling, make sure you check him out. He is the Browns beat reporter for the Akron Beacon-Journal. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Guardians. Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat reporter, straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We turn our attention to the Guardians, currently in third place in the American League Central, but they play their next 7 games against the Twins and the Tigers, 2 of the 3 teams that are ahead of them. Stephen Kwan on the approach to the upcoming stretch of games that's so important.
Yeah, I think maybe before we would have done that, but I mean, the season's so long. You play 162 for a reason, and yeah, I'd be lying if I said we didn't know who we were playing coming up next. But I think if you add a little more pressure, that's when things can kind of go awry. Like I said, it's 162 for a reason. We try to just win every day, and if it doesn't work, you go the next day and just brick by brick play every game. But I think that's kind of what our older guys preach to us, and that's what we got to continue to keep doing.
With that, let's welcome in Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Hoynes, it's they finish the suspended game, then they play another game. These 7 games, they could fall out of contention in the American League Central if they're not careful.
Yeah, David, you don't want to put too much emphasis on a stretch of games in May, but this could really kind of really define the season. Um, they've dropped from second place in the AL Central all the way to third or fourth. They've got 3 against the Twins, who just finished with a 13-game winning streak, and then they have Detroit for 4 games at Comerica Park, and they have the best record in the big leagues. So this is kind of a good time to play well, and unfortunately, their offense is not playing well.
No, I can't figure out there isn't one thing. It's a couple of things that are not working right now.
Yeah, they go 3 for 21 with runners in scoring position against the Reds over the weekend and get swept. I mean, you're not going to win. You're not going to win games with 3 hits and with runners in scoring position. And then, except for the one game, they really didn't put anybody in scoring position to score runs. So, it's kind of a top to bottom dry spell. They're not getting much production from the bottom of the order. The Reds did a great job against Quan. They held him to a 1 for 11. Jose Ramirez was, kept the streak going, but wasn't really, didn't really produce when he should have. So it's just a tough stretch right now.
Yeah, I know you wrote an article about the bullpen. It's so good a year ago, hasn't been nearly as good this year. Here's the numbers that you mentioned. So Cade Smith, 261, which isn't bad, not quite as good as 191 a year ago. Tim Herron, 450 this year, 192 last year. Hunter Gaddis, still just a 1.00 ERA, which has been outstanding. It was 1.57 last year. Emmanuel Clase had that really rough stretch, so his ERA is still 4.75. Now, last year it was 0.61. That's another area you're going to have to get that bullpen kind of at least back to close to where they be. Bullpens are so strange. Hoynes, those are usually 2-pitch guys, and if one of those pitches flattens out or they're not hitting their spot, that's kind of what happens year to year.
That's exactly right, David. And these guys were so good in 2024. In talking to Carl Willis, the pitching coach, he said those 4 guys were about as close to perfect as you could be during the course of the season. And in doing so, they set the bar so high that, I'm still stunned when somebody gets a hit off of Class A. I mean, or any of those 4 guys. It's like, how did that just happen? I mean, that's not supposed to happen. But, Willis said, the opposition has had a whole off season to study pitch sequencing, to get a line on these guys' stuff. And they've done a great job, scouting these guys. And I think, just the wear and tear that those guys had over last season, that plays a factor in this too.
Yeah, without question. And again, they've shown some signs of getting right, but Slade Ciccone, that's the main guy that they got in the trade for Josh Naylor. Made his major league debut, or not his major league debut, his Guardians debut. It was a pretty good one. What did you think of Ciccone? And I know you wrote an article about it, so take us through that.
Yeah, I really liked what Ciccone did. Saturday night, he goes 5 innings, strikes out a career high 8, gives up 3 runs, but he left with having allowed just 1 run. So, he's going to step into that place vacated by Ben Lively, who unfortunately went on the IL with a strained right forearm. So, we'll have to, he's going to pitch again in Detroit, and I would imagine he's going to get a few more starts just to, build off that first start, his Cleveland debut.
Yeah, and again, younger guy, only 25, has had some success in the big leagues. Another guy that, we keep hearing progressing, if you will, is Shane Bieber. I know you wrote an article about Bieber. Take us through that and where he is.
Yeah, Carl Willis was saying that he sat down with Lonnie Soloff, the head medical guy for the medical director for the Guardians, and they mapped out a rehab schedule for Bieber, which is encouraging. He's been throwing a lot of live batting practice in Goodyear, so it sounds like toward the end of this month, maybe early June, he's going to start pitching in minor league games, and I would think we could see him maybe by the All-Star break, or a little before the All-Star break, joining the Guardians rotation, and that would definitely be a welcome sight.
Yeah, without question. Another article you wrote, they can't win on pitching alone. The pitching, it was pretty good against the Reds. The problem is I think they scored 6 runs for the series against Cincinnati.
They score 4 runs in the opener, lose 5-4. Then they score 2 runs in the next 18 innings. I mean, you can't do that. And I thought Francona did a really interesting job managing against his old team. They haven't faced many left-handed starters this year, and last year they kind of wore lefties out. But he starts 2 lefties: Brent Suter on Saturday in the opener role, and then Andrew Abbott on Sunday. And those guys combined to throw 8 scoreless innings. So interesting move by Francona. I think he may have got one over on his old team.
Well, when you look at this offense, this is usually the time of year that Carlos Santana starts to hit. Right around Memorial Day, he kicks it into another gear. What else do they? Arias has been really hot and cold. Schneemann was really hot. Now he's kind of cold. It's so ebb and flow. And they really haven't gotten anything from right field. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, David. Right field has been a disaster, and there's going to have to be some moves made. Lane Thomas is progressing well in his rehab at Columbus. He had a big night a couple nights ago. He's hitting .291 in 5 games, so he's not going to be in Columbus long. And so what do they do when Lane Thomas comes back? I mean, do they put him in center field where he was playing before he got hurt and move Angel Martinez to right field? Or do they put Lane Thomas in right field where he was playing when they acquired him from the Nationals last year, leave Martinez in center field and kind of sort through Nolan Jones, John Kenzie Noel, and Will Brennan? Those are the 3 guys that are kind of rotating through right field right now. And so one of those guys is going to have to go.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Arias has shown signs, and just when you think he's got it, he kind of goes and has 3-4 where it's like, eh.
Yeah, Arias is, I think, he's not a middle of the order hitter, and that's where they're hitting him basically. If he hits at the top of the order or he's hitting 7th, 8th, or 9th, that means you have a much better lineup. But when he's hitting in the 4, 5, or 6, I think you're asking a lot of him, and he's had really a kind of a breakout season for him. This is the first time we've seen him swing the bat on a consistent basis and get good results. But I think he's miscast as a middle of the order hitter.
I think he's trying to do to your point. I think you put him there and he feels like he's got to be an RBI guy, and then he starts to do some things that when he's not going well, he does.
Yeah, and he's got such a great swing to go the opposite way. We've seen it time and time again, and you can't do that every at bat because obviously pitchers are going to pitch you different. But I think when he gets away from that approach, he kind of he's caught in between.
Yeah, and when he just does that, he's a pretty good hitter and with some surprising power.
Yeah, and he's got extra base power. He's played a great shortstop, great second base. I think he's really kind of stepped forward this year. It's just unfortunate that there's not more hitters around him that are doing the same thing.
Paul Hoynes, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Hoynesy.
Thank you, David.
Paul Hoynes, make sure you check him out. Guardians beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Always the best Guardians coverage in town. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will be at the Mid-American Baseball Conference Championships the rest of the week. Off Monday, we will see you Tuesday here on Sports for CLE. Have a great holiday weekend. We will see you Tuesday on Sports for CLE.